Hey folks, in this episode today, I'm joined by Olympic coaches Rob Kober and Bryan Zemba and Olympian Bobby Aldighieri. And in this episode, we go through and discuss the 24-25 FIS World Cup Mogul season. We talk about the event that just happened in Ruka, Finland, and we preview the rest of the season, talk about how we think it's going to shake out, what we've seen so far, and what we're excited to watch. Had a lot of fun chatting with these guys, and I really hope you folks enjoy this episode. Thanks. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time and everybody together. I know it's tough dealing with time zones and everything else, and figured to switch it up a little bit this year. Last few years we've done this, it's usually been like the preview kind of before the season. Thought maybe this year being able to get like a result under the belt, so we kind of have a little bit of an idea of what's going on, and then can kind of project a little bit for the rest of the season and talk about the first event of the year. But thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Bobby.
Man, thanks for putting it
Thanks
together.
for having
Always
us,
fun.
Robert.
Yeah, talk some shop.
So now I was
Some
able
shit and some
to
shot. Let's do it.
video some of the super finals, kind of send it over to you guys so you guys could see a little bit of that, and then also the results and everything else. So since Rob's right next to me, I'll have him start here, kind of just overall thoughts and results. I mean, you were there, got to be able to see it, just kind of first impressions.
Yeah, when you first kind of ran that by me, I thought that was a really good idea to get the first one out of the way, have a better sense of what was going on. But I'm not sure it helped. I'm not sure it helped that much for me. Anyways, it was really fun to be there live again. I definitely missed it, and it was exciting to be there. It was really fun. The level of skiing was impressive. That was not an easy course. And on both the men's and the women's side, even, the top 12 to 15 guys to make finals on the men's side, and the top probably 10 or 12 women too, really, really stood out. It was impressive. So I don't know, like picking a top three. I think I have my top three picked in my head already, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year watching these kids duke it out on the mogul course this year. That's for sure.
All right, Mr. Aldighieri.
Just you want my overall impressions, or
Yeah, overall first thought, sure.
yeah, the course to me looked hard. It's always, as much time as I've spent in the sport, you still can't appreciate it on television. You just can't. Like, right, Rob? Like maybe for you being away and then coming back, you forget. You forget that the camera never does it justice. But to me it didn't look that easy to me. But yeah, it looked hard. And but yeah, when we get into the specifics, I mean, I don't know where you want me to go from here, but I initially had, watching it, had some real and like wow moments, about a few different people, but I don't know if you want to get into that right now or not.
Sure, we'll go with Zemba, just first impressions, and then maybe we'll go a little more detail after that.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Bob, for having us. First impressions, it did look like it had a little bit of teeth. It seemed like a lot of the top dogs even had trouble with the top section. It seemed like that was kind of confirmed listening. Just got done listening to the athlete review of the event. And yeah, it seems like you guys deal with an array of conditions. It was good to see some of the top dogs kind of still got it. And then a lot of good kind of rebound performances, obviously, from like the Coopers, the Perrines, the Avitals. There was a lot of names that were not as prevalent last year, and to see them kind of have some strong results to start the season was awesome to see that. But yeah, those new dads on the circuit just look way too well rested. I don't know how no one's playing ding dong ditch, jumping up and down on the floor. Like, you got it in, guys. Like, come on. Finally have a chink in the armor, but didn't stop any of those guys from getting the job done. So
Yeah.
No, that's definitely true, and it was fun to get to
dad
chat
strength's
with
a thing,
Mick
I guess.
in
You guys
Ruka.
can speak to that, Bobby and Rob.
Yeah,
Dad strength's a thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, Rob and I talked about it a little bit earlier, just in the fact of how locked in Mick really looked and seemed like he clearly wanted to start the season off and have that picture at the bottom with Henrik wearing the yellow bib. And you could tell like he had that fire in the belly and like really, really wanted to check that box. And yeah, it was pretty special to watch that happen. I mean, he laid down. He was training great all week, and he really laid down some great runs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Those guys were amazing. That was the nice part, like the last couple of years for me, just watching the live streams and the little bits that were on TV was really fun. But to be able to watch all of training and see just how on point those guys were, it was impressive. Mick and Akuma, they both looked better than ever. A few of the other guys too, like it was there was some really, really strong skiing. It seemed like there was a number of athletes that were really at the top of their game, and watching training was impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those being able to it's hard to really until you show up to that first event. I mean, the way they have the different groups set up, no one really is able to kind of train together, right? So you're kind of in that pod and then really for training, you get to see everybody's throwing all their new tricks, all the secret trainings kind of out the window, and you see what everyone's kind of bringing and showing up with. And we chatted a little bit about it. Akuma laying down the 14s, trying to definitely seem to like set the tone. Like first day, I don't think too many people kind of saw that coming from like the time off and everything else. He was the first run I saw from him, it was like double full 14. I was like, oh shit, like he's here to try to make a statement. He's definitely not skiing for second place. Like there was no question about that. I was like, okay, it's like setting the tone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Walter,
that's cool.
great, yeah. Yep, yep.
Go ahead.
No, it's like Walter, I mean, at the same time was like laying down. He seemed to get stronger and stronger throughout the week and throughout the event. It was one of those things, especially the first when the Wednesday before the first official training days, they allowed everyone to kind of pre-ski the course and everything. And I mean, the course it had just rained and was like glacial, super, super firm. They got a
Terrifying.
little bit of fresh snow, terrifyingly firm. And
Yeah.
just like, I think scared, kind of and every single day it just got better and better. And you could kind of start to see the athletes really feed into that. And then, I mean, on finals training, actually, the wind blew in, the fog blew in. You couldn't even see for those first few athletes in finals. There was definitely like some interesting Ruka
Yeah.
conditions that reared its head. But I thought girls and guys, like it was an awesome way to start the season for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, I I couldn't believe Mick. The guy's 32. I think his skiing looks slightly better today than it did previously. Like his left side, he's more square. He's not as rotating on that left side like that. It was just mind blowing to me. It was, I was, you know, don't, I've watched it a lot for a long time, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how well he skied. For right at the moment, for whatever reason, I'm really focused on impulse, like that just the initial touch and the impulse, and the guy hasn't lost a step, a step. And I mean, it's impressive. He's impressive, and to me, just that body position. He's really forward with his center. He's really like down the fall line really relentlessly, but he's not, it's not like that strong. Like people talk about skiers, that guy's strong or that girl's strong. It never sounds very good to me. It's more, he's just so light and the impulse. And then he's more square. I think he's more square on that left side. I swear. Just looks better foot to foot, more symmetrical to me. And the full package, the double full corked. It's just, yeah.
And he never missed. That's the thing, like in training, like I don't think I saw him make a mistake. Like I don't think I saw a single step out. I don't think I saw him get rocked once. Like every turn was like that, like the whole time, not just the competition runs, but he was on point. And Akuma, for that matter, was too. Like I don't think I've seen him. I think that's the best I've ever seen him ski too. Yeah, it's gonna be a good battle. I think we're gonna see some impressive stuff in the coming weeks here.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Kind of what you were saying, Bobby. Aldighieri, just right with any sport, you see someone losing then on their fastball, but like Mick was just so quiet, upper body, just like it was. That was the best word I could use. It's just impressive. Like this guy is just hasn't lost a step. And obviously, he's probably taken a little bit more time off, but it's to think the amount of runs, the amount of travel, even like, and it's still just that consistent. But it was. I think you were saying a little bit earlier too, Bobby. Tough to maybe judge the overall impression because Okuma looked to have such a sweet run with his 14 at the bottom. I was kind of surprised he wasn't like maybe a little bit bigger of a score, but maybe with the boys with the boots on the ground can give us a little bit more insight of kind of what maybe was the separation there because I actually
Right.
thought he might have scored a little bit higher.
Yeah. Perfect. A
Look
little
at
technical
you. Look at
difficulty
this. I'm still at work, guys, Try not to booze on the job.
there.
This is my last day of so give me a break. It's 4 o'clock.
It's
So,
5 o'clock somewhere.
Rob, back to what you were.
Yeah, it
Well,
goes.
for me, I thought I don't know how the judges scored it. I didn't look at the judges the score sheets that closely. But Akuma, he with the double full, he landed just a little bit left of center on the line, so he had to make a bit of an adjustment. There's sort of a little bit of a rough turn on that double full landing and exit, and where like Mick was dead center and seamless on the
Right.
exit.
Got it.
That's what made the difference in my mind.
That's one thing I wish they did in the recordings, and I don't know how you guys feel, but the top air is always that side view. You can't really get a good gist of like how they're
Yeah,
going
they
back
always switch it.
into the fall
I
line.
hear ya.
So it's
Watching on TV that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
You can't if they stuck to the side view all the way down, at least you'd have that
yeah,
consistent frame of reference. But when they go back and forth, it does make it really hard to tell.
What's going on there? Let's see the
Yeah.
back. Hold on once. You guys keep talking. Let me see if I get the lights going here.
Yeah, Walter was impressive too. Those guys, all three of those guys, and then the other fellas. Uh, Bobby and I were talking earlier. I thought Matt Graham looked better than just the skiing.
Thank you.
Not necessarily his contest runs in particular, but just in general, I thought he's skied as well, if not better than I've ever seen him ski before. He looked really good in training.
I
Cooper
thought the
looked
same
really
thing.
good.
I thought the same thing. I thought the guy looked really good. Pretty deep with the move, and I thought he looked good. I was impressed by him too. These guys aren't getting any younger, and I mean, I thought the same thing, Rob. I thought he looked good. You
I
know
thought the
why?
same with Cavett. Cavett looked just like last year. He looked like he was really trying to force some things, and he just looked to be skiing a little bit looser, like maybe a bobble here, but not trying to fight it so much, just skiing through the mistake and kind of letting the run come to him. Kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting with Ben in talking, like when we talked after the event the other night, just how he talked about how he landed his full and he was so stoked on like his back full landing. Like he landed it just like bolted that like mid run in the moment he was like, that was a fucking sick landing. And then had like his two mistakes for the whole run, like right after that. And he's like, oh, I gotta get it, like gotta get back to it. But it was pretty funny listening to him talk about it and then like watching the film back because he was like just stuck the landing and then like two turns, feet get a little bit away from him, and then he's like, oh, gets it back and like has it. Yeah, it was pretty funny to listen to him talk about it.
On the Cavett thing,
Hmm.
what do you guys think about this? To me, in the past, he's been more that sort of, he's a thin, kind of tallish guy, more that upright style. To me, and I don't know because I'm not there, but to me, he looks like he's changed his stance. He looks like he's changed his base stance and subsequently technically, he looks lower, more like that Ikuma style versus that like Begsmith style. Do you guys feel that way at all about that? Can you see, did that on all dawn on you?
Well, I know in talking to Ben, he's tried to change a little bit of his turn style, specifically for a lot of these courses, because these are a lot of the places that he struggled in the past compared to like a Deer Valley or an Alp, and kind of his turn definitely favors more of that kind of style of course, where I know he's put a lot of work in trying to kind of make the turn fit for how a lot, I would say the majority of those World Cup courses now kind of, you spend so much time here in Scandinavia and Ruka and a lot of those places. So I know that he's tried to make some changes there in the turn. So that could be part of the difference that you're seeing there, Bobby.
Did you notice that at all, Rob?
I
Did
didn't.
that?
No, I didn't, Bobby, but I will definitely go back and take a look now that you say that. Yeah, I'll definitely go back and take a closer look at Ben.
He looked lower and more compact than I was used to seeing him. So yeah, I'd be curious to
Yeah.
follow up with you guys, like
Mhm.
For
with you
sure, like this
in
course, the
Scandinavia.
guys that are just looking to abuse the faces and that's their primary, mechanism for braking and control, like that's not gonna work super good in Ruka. So for sure, like you need to have more continuous pressure. You can't rely on just the faces on that course, that's for sure. And you saw a whole lot, like conversely, like the top layer was so impressive, but like a typical first World Cup, you saw so many guys and girls that were just trying too hard, like trying to ski above their heads and blowing out, making it, 5 turns out of the top air and then having to blow out. Like there's so much of that. So for sure, like for Ben to maybe try to be a little bit lower, have a little more, kind of ability to absorb and press on the backside earlier and just keep the wheels on the road higher percentage of the time. Like that definitely makes sense, but I have to admit I didn't notice that. I will go back and take another look.
Yeah. Let me know what you think. Text me
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
think. But yeah, it's just
Then you,
to me
yeah,
it was like outstanding, um, really outstanding. But I don't know. Again, I'm not there, so
Yeah, and I think also this year it was interesting in the fact that there was a much more difficult middle section in the fact that there was like 36, 35 bumps in there. So it was a lot tighter where last year, 2023, I think it was 25. So there was like
wow.
9 more bumps this year than the year before. So they definitely made it like a much, much more difficult section in there. So I think that
was that like a spacing thing, or was that just a layout of the course? Like they moved, whether it be the jump kind of up the hill or down the hill, or like was
I
it a
think they
shorter
just tried to
course,
fit
longer
more in. I
course,
think
or
that top
just
air was in
got
the
it?
usual spot, and bottom air was kind of in the usual spot, and they just decided to jam a bunch more in
To
there and kind of,
tighten up
Good.
the spacing.
yep,
Yeah.
spacing
They
was
went with
much
feet
more.
instead of meters.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, definitely, yeah. But that was definitely one thing that was noticeable. So I think it was hard for some guys to be able to. You definitely had to have quick feet.
And yeah, be adaptable.
Hmm.
You could not just rely on pattern movement through there, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it was, I mean, there was, I was really impressed with just some of the training that I was able to watch on the men's side. I thought Julian Bale was skiing really well too. Now, he didn't have like the best result like on the day, and obviously it's where it's a really long season. I thought he was skiing really well. I thought Gab Dufresne, he finished like 18th, but he had some
Mm.
stuff in training that I thought was really good. 18th or 19th, or 17th.
17th.
Was he
He
17th?
was
He was 17th.
17th.
Okay. But
He
I
think
thought
he
he was
holds the
skiing.
record for the most 17th. I think that was his 10th. I think he told me we were talking about dinner tonight.
Brutal.
I think he told me it was his 10th,
Oh
17th
my
place
God,
17th
on the
place.
World Cup.
Ay, ay, ay.
that
Yeah.
sucks.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. No, I thought he was training well. There were a few
It was
Dayu
sweet to see the
was training
Finns
really
show
well.
up. The
Yeah,
Finns
and the
perform
Finns,
at like
yeah.
the home event. Like that was
Yep.
sweet. I can't remember seeing like Finns in the top 10 like at that event to start the year. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's been a
Been a
while.
minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. And they skied well. I mean,
Yeah, they're not
Severy, his
afraid to huck
finals
it.
run was really good.
Really
I mean,
good.
yeah, no,
That
he had a quality, really quality finals run with that 10 up top and the 10 tail on bottom. Like he was throwing the DD
Yeah,
at it, and
10 to 10. Yeah,
yeah,
I think he was a little more nervous, obviously, for the super
I
final,
think so. Yep.
but yeah, that I agree. That finals run was something else.
when I saw that, I think to me that's if you could take, I think Mick being his age, just having a child, coming back and really laying one down, that's impressive to me. But the Severy guy, I thought that guy to me he was the performance
stole the show.
of the
Yeah,
day.
Yeah.
I mean the guy, he's not like that junky good. That guy's good. Like he's
Yeah.
technically like pretty sound. He's pretty symmetrical side to side. He skis like a reasonable body position. He's runs the ski like at a reasonable at a reasonable arc down the hill. I thought that guy, I've never, you guys, Bobby, you may know about him. I've never heard of that guy. And I was like, who is this guy? And I think he's good. He's 23 years old and he's like good. He's like
Yeah.
technically good.
He
He's
had
not that
won
like,
seventh at St. Come, I think last year. He just or maybe it was 2020. I
okay,
can't remember. He had just missed out on the super final last year.
okay.
One of those
I
or the
guess
year before. Yeah,
some
he
of
had
the
finished in seventh.
some of the other coaches were talking about it. Maybe you were up there, but I guess his dad was working in the start. He was one of the volunteers in
Oh,
the
really?
start
I didn't
area.
know that. Okay.
And in the super final, the dad was, I guess, losing his mind in front of the little monitor they had up there, and all the other coaches were kind of cheering for him. And I guess it was Josh. Josh told me about
Okay.
this that like he thought that was pretty cool. Like the guy kind of, I think the dad kept his cool until the super final, and then he couldn't anymore. It's like that's my boy, and so it's, I think Brian and Josh were telling me about that
That's
after the
pretty
event.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
that's
The
pretty
other cool thing, like there's a new course
Yeah.
in Ruka, Bobby. Like
Hmm.
from the days, it's hard for me to believe that we spent almost 6 weeks that one year in Ruka training. It's which was awesome. I remember that was you know mentally difficult, but boy, like super productive training. But now, there's not just the battery run, but there's this other training course, which is a much easier course, much more suitable for, skill development of younger kids. And I went over, like we trained with, in my new job with the Team China, we went over the day after the event. We did an extra day of training, and Mikko Ronkainen is over there
Mhm.
coaching this group of
hell
kids,
yeah.
like
Nice.
little kids, and there's maybe a dozen of these little rippers, these Finnish kids on this course. And it was so cool. That was so neat for me to see. Like I thought we were going to have this course to ourselves, and we kind of did. We had a really good training day, but to see Miko over there working with all these, like these little guys, and they're all really good. Like I think the Finns might be in good shape here, like in the coming years, if with a guy like that,
What
that caliber.
what's Miko's role? Is he like does he do this sort of on the weekends or what's his like how does that all what does that look like?
I don't know
I
for
don't know.
sure.
Yeah,
I didn't ask
sure.
him specifically, but he was there. He was the only coach over there. He had a group of 8 or 10 kids, probably between 10 and 13 years old, and they were just cranking laps, and Miko was coaching them. And I would suspect it's probably, a weekend based program, just given the age of the kids
Right.
and everything. But
That's a
that
good
was
guy.
really
That's
neat.
about a guy to have touch with and guy coaching you. I mean, just awesome. That's what you want.
Yeah, and then with I mean Laurie up in Lassila up in Levy up there. I mean they had that course I think open like October 5th, and that for some of the kids I know there was one of the kids up there I can't remember who was telling me, but younger kid was like falling in love with like freestyle, and he was doing 30 runs a day. He's like 12 years old. just doing 30 runs a day, just like top to bottom on this little, like, it's a pretty good, I haven't been, I've seen the pictures and everything else, it's like 230 meters, not super steep or whatever, pretty easy on the body,
Perfect.
13, and just 30 laps a day. Why not?
Awesome.
Yeah, 230 meters, 13, easy on the body. 230.
No, pretty good. So yeah, I think the Finns are definitely in good shape and some excitement there for sure. And on the men's side as well, it was really Charlie, I thought skied really well. Charlie Mickle, I thought was
Solid.
great. Cole, it's nice to see Des back around coaching, and he had some guys firing off. And it was interesting because I thought Nick had trained really well, Paige, and I thought some of his training, I had seen some good stuff that just didn't, I think he was what, 18th night. He was kind of right behind Gab,
22nd
somewhere in
22nd
there.
or 20th or 20th.
And
20th.
Lando had trained well as well. I thought Landon had some good, his
Dude,
turn, and he had some good
when
stuff
he's
going.
on, he's pretty to watch, but it's
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
timing of it of when he's on. He's
Yeah.
just still got to work on that.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. As we were discussing the other day. There's 21 events on the season, so you got the first one kind of out of the way, and it'll be interesting to see how some of those jitters and everything else of the first event and all of that. It's hard. You have all that prep, everything else, and then the lights are on, pressure, all that stuff, and it'll be interesting to see how people are kind of able to respond. It's interesting. It's always that one-off. It's not like you get the next day to kind of be able to have that redemption in duels or anything else. And I'm interested to see how that'll go here. Everybody will get that singles event, but then they'll be looking for redemption on duels day, and it'll be interesting to see here in Idre how that kind of plays into it.
Yeah.
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 I agree. And I think Nick, that's disappointing result for him, but he's going to come around. He's good. He's got good skills, and I think his skiing. Dessa sent me quite a bit of video of him. I think his skiing looks good, more direct, and he's done some good work. But I kind of remember that as an athlete, you come in and you've done all this prep, and subsequently, well, I let it put pressure on me. There was no one but me, but you can do that, or just let it put pressure on you, or you can just say, I'm going to really go show the world my skills.
Mhm.
But Nick will come around. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I know on my end, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep that much. I was like nervous, excited. I was like ready to go. Like, all right, I got everything charged, like getting ready for the day. I was like, oh, sweet. You put in all that time over the summer and everything else, and I'm just coaching. And I'm on the micro team coach right now, and I was still like fired up with all the butterflies and like excited for the first event. Like, oh, all this work. Finally, we get to go. Like,
Right.
see how it looks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and for you too, like I thought, Avatar looked particularly good in training, and I don't know that I saw her qualification run, but I was unfortunate in finals, but she sure looked good in training, and I don't know if it's the case for her too. You probably have a pretty good sense of that, but like, you just can't help but think like with Nick and with Landon too, um, just like so many others, just trying that little bit too hard, just maybe being a little bit too greedy, like Jalen in the super final too. Just
finals,
too
because she
greedy.
trained.
Oh,
I thought she was probably
Yep.
out of like watching the girls training. In my opinion, I thought she looked the most improved and the best in my mind. Like she had some top air exits that were just like super legit. She was skiing really, really well. I was like, okay, like
She was cooking out
she
of that
looked the
top
best
air
to
in
me
that
out of
finals run.
all the girls
Yeah.
training.
yeah,
I was like,
she was going for it, but
Yeah.
maybe just
Yeah.
little too greedy. Just tried a little too hard. Just
mhm.
She'll come around, obviously.
Yeah.
She's
Just that second to clean it up. Yeah.
No,
But I thought
definitely.
it looked strong. I was surprised. Like, I thought she looked really quiet in her upper body. Like, sometimes that could be a little bit of a distraction for her, but I thought her skiing looked really strong in the middle section. I know we'll probably see that big old bag of tricks here pretty soon. But yeah, I thought her skiing wise looked really strong.
Yeah. No, no. I thought, on the girls' end, I thought a lot. I thought both of the girls from Kazakhstan looked strong as well. Garako and
Yeah, Sheba.
Yulia. It was good to see Yulia back in there, and it was hard. Like it's hard to see. Tess, I thought skied really well.
Yeah,
Watching
she
in,
looked
it was
really good.
hard. Yeah, I thought Tess looked really good, and it's good to see her kind
Similar
of
to
back
yeah,
in strong form.
Yeah.
similar to Akuma. I like thought she might have like I thought her score was a little low to me, but like I said, it's tough seeing judging everything from 2,000 miles away.
Right.
But
No, and it was interesting too. Like, I
I
mean, the
thought she
one
looked
thing
good.
on like from Akuma as well, like he was coming at a sixth. So it's where, he was in that spot a little bit lower and those other guys kind of putting in, it's kind of like going 16-1 or whatever else. Like you really have to put down something that's going to be pretty tremendous to kind of force the judge's hand, like in those circumstances. And he had a pretty good, he had a pretty good run. I thought the 14 was pretty good. It was, there wasn't too much of a cross like in the 14. I know that that's like in the rules now. Like if you do a 7 off axis position, like it has to have a cross in it. So I think the same thing applies to the 14. I mean, I don't know the amount of velocity and G's that you're pulling, how you're able to get like that big of a cross in there,
Yeah.
but I know like as the rules go, that thing's got to have a cross in it.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of, I didn't know that, and
mhm.
I'm actually glad to hear that. Like even going back to Sochi, like before Sochi, there was more emphasis even on being um, flexed into your cross and not just that straight body line.
Mhm.
There's more emphasis on, making a cork 10 different from a double full.
Right.
And that kind of seems to have slipped away over the last 10 years. And so to at least if they're, being stricter with the position, I personally like that. I don't
Mhm.
know. I know, you know, some of the cool kids may have their own ideas about that, but I think if there's not enough to make a double full different than a cork 10, it's, we're talking about the axis or the position and how we define these things. I I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's in the rule book now. It's in the rule book. If you're doing a set,
It's got to have a cross. And do they talk about like it 90-degree angles or like what Rob was talking
it
about?
just says it has to have a cross in
Has
it.
to be
So
close.
like
Yeah.
seven, seven, there's no longer a 7-0. So I had a
Yeah.
year where I purposefully didn't put a cross in it and I would have gotten hammered.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
think Zemba, I think you remember that year. Yeah, no, I was purposefully like, oh no, because one of the Japanese guys did it with no cross, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
Yeah, Vince Marquis, going back to Vince, he
Yep.
did it
I
with
knew that's exactly what I
yeah.
think about. The guy's hip flexors were so bound up he couldn't cross his skis, right,
yeah.
Rob?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah. He
so
was super
stiff.
tight in his hips. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, was I going to say, Schwinghammer had a good one, eh? Like I've always
Yeah,
thought she was
Maya.
pretty good, and yeah, I've always thought she was pretty good. I kind of think I've kind of feel like for a while she's sort of underperformed, and be nice to see her kind of in the mix more consistently. I think she's got nice touch, impulse, and good body position, and just went after it a little bit more. That was nice. That was nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Maya she has kind of underperformed in the last, 3 or 4 years. I think she's been good for a while, but my feeling is just kind of having watched her ski that she hasn't really believed in herself until this year. Like just the way she carried herself on the course here, it seems like she's finally kind of finding that confidence, like that she does belong in the super final and she can kind of go toe to toe with those other girls.
Hmm.
She just looked more confident, just more positive body language and not like the last couple of years she looked really good, but like kind of just a little bit tense, a little tentative, a little too hopeful, and not enough really taking charge of her skiing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would. Um, yeah, and Perrine, I thought, I don't know, she seemed like her expectations were a little bit low, but to me, she looked really good, really
Yeah,
nice, really like the same to me, like really nice on the face. Her asymmetry doesn't totally do it for me, like, from side to side, but that release is awesome. Upper body, just a real natural with that sort of that same impulse, like that very Mick-esque kind of so easy to pick, pick the people that win, but you know,
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't have picked for, we were talking about this earlier when we first got here, when we first started sipping on our beers. That one is the one that did surprise me, I think. Like
Hmm,
I don't know that I saw Perine's qualification run, but I saw a lot of her training and I
Mhm.
thought she looked pretty inconsistent. Like some runs pretty junky. And it's for sure it was cool to see her come back and win. I wasn't expecting that, and it's not
interesting.
like I watched every run, but I wasn't super optimistic for her. I'm pretty sure I saw her have some pretty stressful, like probably unfair to call them meltdowns, but some pretty like stressful moments in the finish area after some training runs where it didn't seem like there was a lot of confidence and the quality of the skiing I saw from her in training was definitely a notch below, quite noticeably a notch below what she was able to deliver in the super final.
I think that's, it's cool to hear that, I think. And I think that's where the rubber really hits the road, and you hear about that. I've more and more and more, I've studied, people with a lot of self-doubt. I mean, at the moment in the gate, in various sports,
Mhm.
that make it happen. And it's just to me, it's impressive. It's impressive to be there and have, real doubt and still able, and maybe they have so much doubt they're like, well, I'm not going to win this thing. I don't know, but like, I'm not going to win this thing anyway. So I'm just going to go out there and do my best and see what happens. Maybe she
Yeah.
was at that point, and then now expectations will be different. Who knows? But you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah, totally.
you hear that a lot. Like it's been like a big thing with Lindsey Vaughn, throughout her career. But yeah, impressive.
The one thing I'll say, she looked pretty confident, like in the start gate. Going back, looking at those side videos, and like I think that she definitely clearly has that champion's mind. And like you kind of look at some of those visuals in the start gate, she looks pretty focused. She looks pretty calm, like she's ready to rip the run. Didn't seem like a lot of doubt, at least in the top for that super finals run. She definitely seemed like she was confident and ready. I think she was surprised at the result, but I think that's kind of like what she does. I mean, I feel like I've seen her cry almost every time she wins. She's like shocked that she wins. I don't know. I feel like I've seen that on YouTube every like FIS World Cup when she was winning. She'd just be like in tears, surprised at the result. But in the Stargate, she looked like she was ready to rip the run for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
But yeah, no. So I thought, yeah, she skied I mean, competed really well. She seemed to build throughout the event as well, and I think that'll be really interesting to watch to see who's going to be able to bounce back. I know on one of the interruptions was talking about Dae-Yoon, and he was training really well, but I think Matt was telling he banged up his hip on like that Wednesday when it was like super super icy, kind of before official training. And I don't think he trained until competition day. So like the day of the event, he kind of came out and just went a little bit too big on his bottom air, but he was someone that was training really, really well coming into the event. So I think he'll definitely be a contender down the line. And I thought Mateo had some pretty good runs. Dylan Walzak skied well. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, he usually always skis pretty well here on this course, but I thought talking about the elder statesman out on tour. He was definitely cooking some middle sections. He was looking pretty good there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's always been pretty good. I don't, I, you know, I, yeah, I think he's
Consistent.
good. It just hasn't always put it out there. He doesn't really try to like gun it. It's pretty steady. I think the
Mhm.
guy's got some upside, but
Yeah. No, and another one
How's
like
Kai doing? It looked
Kai, yeah.
like, oops, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I didn't get to see Kai's qualification run, but she looked to be a little bit in pain after her finals run. Everything all right there because she looked, at least on the broadcast, like she was kind of wincing over in a little bit of pain after her
I
finals run.
think everything was fine. I didn't hear
Okay,
anything after the fact. She seemed like in good spirits and everything, so I think everything was held
no
up.
news is good news.
Yeah, no news is good news. Speaking to kind of some of those injuries and stuff, it looked like Lemley got hurt in the training before the
well,
competition. So I know that
Yep.
she went home. Not sure the extent of that. Hopefully she's gonna be okay and be all right. Daeun had gotten a little bit banged up before the event, like I said. What other news do we kind of have for you guys stateside? The other one, I guess, looking at like the tour, Alpe d'Huez has just been canceled. So that was official as like a couple hours ago. So they're going to try and see if we can get a different venue in time for that.
Okay.
But that, yeah, lack of snow there. So maybe we can
Is
find.
there anything still in like Austria? Like, could you scramble to Hintertux or?
Well, I think the hard part is to try to find like the funding and the mountain to like host it. You know, I think there's
Yeah,
a few different courses you could go to, but it's all finding the
my
prize
mind goes
money and
there just because
everything
you
else.
have kind of like a boots on the ground with faring there, like someone that's like been at plenty of World Cups
Right,
to throw such an event. But
right. Maybe Teen, we had kind of
Yeah.
potentially maybe Teen
There you
will
go.
step up somewhere
that'd be
in
cool.
France. That would be, yeah, that would be a cool one. I'm not really sure where, because apparently all of Europe's like hurting for snow. I know Steve is actually in Tbilisi getting the World Cup ready for the Georgia World Cup ready. So he's not in. I think Hintertux is like shut down kind of for the winter. So I think that option would probably be out. But I don't know, maybe Valvolenko, maybe
Yeah, maybe.
Teen.
I would love to go back to teen. Back to the Inter Residence.
There you go.
And it kind of keeps
Wow.
it like right
Old
in
school.
France. That would be a good move, good lateral move.
Yeah, somewhere in
Yeah,
that part, everyone's kind of got everything booked to go there, but I don't know how much where the snow is. I haven't really looked at too much of the snow reports or anything else. And
All you need is cold temps. I mean, in teen, for that lower course there that they had the Olympics on, there's snowmaking down there. They just have to have the temps, and it doesn't take forever to, 3 days of consistent temperatures in the mid-teens and relatively low humidity, you know, 3 days they could have that course ready.
yeah,
My brother-in-law makes snow and steamboats, so I've got my finger on the pulse of
yeah.
what the best conditions are for snowmaking now. I know a lot about it. It's actually really interesting and cool. But yeah,
Yeah, no doubt.
We built this last year's national course in a day, so we pull it off
there you go.
with 3 snowcats break. That was great.
Well, I guess as we start to wind it down, do we have like a few? Do you guys want to go through and go with a few different predictions or comments on the rest of the season? Kind of how we guess you guys think the duels or singles on the ladies and men's side will kind of finish up, or how do you guys wanna roll?
Well, I mean, I could give you my top three, but I
Sure,
don't know
there
if
you
they
go.
like
There you go. Perfect.
I,
Rob starting
I,
us off.
I on the guys' side, I think the podium that we saw in Ruka, I think that's going to be a familiar sight all year long. I think see the Mick Akuma Walter combination on the podium. I think there's going to be some other guys that are really going to push that, but I kind of expect those three to end up being the top three, probably singles and duels.
Oh well.
It, like I say, I think there'll be some other names that pop in here and there, but I think those guys are going to be the top three, both sides.
Okay. On the ladies' side,
On the ladies' side, I think, we were talking about it earlier too. Like, I think, Jakara wasn't her best here. But I think she's going to figure it out. I think probably I would go with Jakara still by the end of the year. She's going to be on the top. I'd probably put Jalen second and third. Third's a little bit more open in my mind, but yeah, I don't know.
it'd be interesting to see how Perrine and the rest of those girls are gonna duke it out, singles and duels wise, right? That'll be interesting. Like Reno, I think that she kind of I didn't see any of her runs. I just saw like the end result, so I don't know. I didn't really get much of an opportunity to watch her train either. But I mean, last year she was skiing really well until she got hurt, so I was kind of surprised at that result. I never saw her run, so I don't know kind of what happened there, but I would imagine that she's probably going to make some noise. But yeah, that should definitely be interesting to see how that women's side's going to play out for sure. I think on the men, at least for me, I think that Mick is gonna get it done. I think just with the consistency, I see him kind of being singles and duels overall. He's just so consistent, and he knows if he needs that extra like 0.5%, I got to ski this half a second faster or whatever else he needs to be able to get the job done when it's on the line. I think Akuma's gotten a lot more consistent over the last couple years, and he's been able to show that. I'm curious if that's still his now that he's kind of gotten that singles globe, if now he's kind of more into like, if the 14 is going to be like every competition this year, that's going to be his run is maybe a little bit of like a play for 2026 or world championships or whatever else, because you have those kind of other things starting to show up on the horizon. So I'm a little curious how much like what his play is kind of for the season, because as I said earlier, I don't think a lot of people were expecting like him to start the season off that way. So I'm curious about that. I think on the dual side, I think Philip is gonna come in and he can be a contender. I think on that dual side, I think he what ended up I think losing a ski in finals, but he trained pretty well and as duels wise, he seems to be willing to sacrifice more than some of the mere mortals are to be able to make sure he goes top to bottom. So I think he'll definitely be in the hunt there, and I think those elder statesmen as well. Like I think it'll be interesting just with the consistency, but I think what Ben, Matt, they will all kind of be around fighting for those spots. I think Julian Vale will pop back up. Nick, that consistency will come. And so, yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. On the girls' side, I mean, Jakar, we didn't really even talk too much, but I mean, she was going absolutely massive on that top air. That cork mute was sick. Tall's been training really well. I think she's going to have a good season. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Zemba, your thoughts on how the rest of the season, kind of getting one event in? I'll try to keep sending video when I get the opportunity to video a little bit. I'll try to shoot it to you guys. So
Yeah, that's helpful. And your guys' athlete kind of roundtable, that was a fun podcast to listen to because getting a little bit of insight kind of what the athletes think of how the field's looking. Like you were talking about Akuma's 14 and how some of the boys were surprised he was going with it because it was inconsistent and whatnot. And he laced one up in that finals. But speaking of Akuma, I think he'll be in there in the mix in the top three, but I do think Mick will take it home. He's just robotic. He looks like he hasn't missed a step, if anything, gained a step. And then, so yeah, Mick, Akuma, and then I think it's going to be kind of a drag out battle for that third spot between your Walters, your Bens, your Grahams. I think those boys will show some consistency on the result side. And then for the girls, I think Jalen will be kind of in the mix, kind of around similar to wow, drawing blanks on names right now. 5 o'clock, really. The sun goes down. My mind is mush. Around second with Jakar in first. I do think she'll be back at the top of the box there. And then same thing, kind of a rotating door for that third place. But Maya kind of impressed me this past weekend. I thought she's always been a strong skier, but her jumps looked vastly improved that first event. So I think that's going to help her out with some more consistent results. So have her kind of finishing in the top three.
Bobby?
I think the men, I think it's crazy it's like, I think that if you're not thinking Mick's going to win in the men's, you can just say it. You could say, well, I think Mick's going to get second, or I think Mick's going to get third, which seems like crazy, but I think that you're sort of largely foolish to do that. I mean, it's just the guy looks so sharp, and if something that's just not a betting man's thing to not think he's going to be first place. I just, and then but we would have said that at the beginning of last year too, right?
Yeah.
So, I think my hope is that, Ikuma will challenge him and Wahlberg will challenge him and we'll see more results from Nick. We'll see Kvet up there. Um, yeah, but if I were a betting man, I'm going to say Mick, but I really hope that it's a good battle for that spot, and Wahlberg too, it's a little more less maybe to me like he's slippery, but maybe not as, sort of traditionally, technically maybe what I'd like to see, but just on that, sorry, I'm gonna go down that just road just for a moment, but the Swedes, those guys do a good job, I mean, Wahlberg's obviously really good, Gravenfor's really, really good, and then they had other guys in there too, Rasmus and Robin. I mean, it's impressive. They just those guys just do a really good job. That coaching staff, hats off to that coaching staff for sure. Really, really good job. On the women's, I'm gonna abstain a little bit on the women's, I think. But I think that third place is gonna be one that they're gonna have to really duke it out for. I'll abstain on that one though.
Yeah, get that. Yeah, I mean, Walter, we talked about him a little bit, but at the same time, I think one of those things last year, he had a little bit of inconsistency, it seemed, on the double full. And at least in like the training and everything I've seen, it seems like he's definitely improved on that. So, I mean, I think that consistency, and last year he was really kind of right in the hunt until he kind of started to battle that knee injury a little bit, and that kind of forced his season to end early. And that could be one of those, like, not much of a dark horse, but maybe like a little bit just kind of flying a little bit under, just because training wise he had some really, really good stuff. And I think as the duels, starts to come in and some of those aspects, I think that'll be interesting. And then when you were talking about Ben, it made me think he had one of the best duels last year, Deer Valley Under the Lights against Mick. I mean, that was a crazy. I mean, he skied unbelievable in that duel, and like if he starts to show some of that consistency in duels and everything else, I mean, it's going to be a really, really exciting season. So.
I think just on that, Kvet, like, he struggled like the past few years. I was just think he's great, and it be interesting. Yeah, relook at that video, kind of review that video again. Let me know what you think about that body position, boys, and just yeah, it's like that style, technique, and then subsequently the style. I hate to talk about style,
Yeah.
It's
drives me half
freestyle though.
crazy, but just
I'm
technically just seems lower, more compact. I'd like to see him in there. I'd like to see him perform a little bit more. And I was going to say,
Give the
well,
most recent podcast to listen to, Bobby. Like, I don't know, he just put it on the interwebs today. Bobby sitting down with the boys after the event, and Ben talks about just like a different mindset this year of like not hyper focusing on like how he's feeling, but just kind of like what I need to do to perform. So maybe that
interesting.
could have something to do
yeah,
with it too. So
I'm looking forward to
yeah,
to look at that one for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
And
thanks
just
for
just one,
taking the
sorry,
time here.
Bobby.
Oh, yep,
Bobby,
Bobby.
just one other thing.
Yeah, yeah,
With Sweden, this is because I coached at the Winter Sports Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club for some years after, but shout out to Sweden's regional programs too. Rob, you can attest, we can all attest to this. You're only as good as your talent to some degree, right? I think that and obviously Sweden has some talented guys, but it's all about that development process. So it's really
absolutely.
cool. It's cool to see these emerging. These are more emerging you expected from the US, expected from Canada, expected, but just to see, maybe like with Miko in Finland, and you like to see a little bit more of that, maybe in France, some of these more traditional powerhouse type countries. But anyway, guess I'm pretty high on Sweden right now.
They're
Yeah.
skiing well.
For
There's good
sure.
reason. Well,
Yeah.
guys, thanks for taking the time, getting all the time zones mixed in here and matched. I appreciate you guys being able to make it work, and we'll try and do this again soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together, Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bobby.
thanks, Bobby.
All right.
Good chatting with
Bye,
you, gentlemen.
everybody.